All right, welcome everybody to the Wellness Founders Podcast, where we explore the business of wellness and the people creating the future of well-being. Super excited to have my guy Oheri here to talk about a lot of stuff. But as I was going through your background, Oheri, because we've known each other probably for a few years, but like very surface level because I'd been going to your workouts and I'd see you there. We'd say hi in the streets. It was cordial. But in this process, I've been able to do a little bit more digging in your background, and it's fascinated me. And I could what came to mind was maybe a modern day Renaissance man of sorts, because I was finding IMDb profiles with acting credits. I was finding poetry online. I was finding a YouTube travel channel, crypto, digital asset management services. And of course, the thing I know you the best for, which is NomadAbs in Playa del Carmen, which is a fitness community, a social fitness community that's really grown and taken shape, and something that I really value as someone who lived for 4 years in Playa. I still consider it home. And as I mentioned to you before we jumped on, I spent some time with Rob on the last podcast and got his angle of how he built PDC Fitness Group. And now I want to get the other half. I want to get the Nomad Abs half because both of you guys, I think both of you guys have done just tremendous work in Playa del Carmen to make it a destination for people to come for health and wellness. So I want to give you that nice intro before we jump in and just
I appreciate it.
and I appreciate you being on.
Is more the question at this point.
I want to start at like this near-death experience, because it seems like your Mexico journey started a number of years ago. I think it's between 4 and 6 years ago.
It's about 6 years correct. Now, actually.
So
June of 2019.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about like your transition into coming to Mexico and also how that played a part in building, a social fitness community there.
Yeah. I'll say, long story short, I was not necessarily intending to build a social community. That's something that really happened in the past 2 years. And it kind of just happened organically. And it has been a fun and interesting experience ever since. So very grateful to be a part of this whole, movement, as you put it, because there's something I've trained people in the past, but I always say it's funny that when you ask people for money and they don't show up for the workouts, how unsatisfying that is. But you can lead workouts where there's like, a couple of like people, a lot more people, and then no one is, you're not charging anybody anything, but you have more satisfaction because these people are actually showing up because they want the best for themselves, So that to me is one of the biggest benefits in just doing this whole thing, and how it's something that blindsided me. I did not expect that, it kind of just took shape. But before I get even into that, I will touch on the near-death experience a little bit, because I was actually in LA at the time when that all happened. And when that happened, it was one of those things where I was working at Apple at the time. I was on my way to work, and I had woken up late, and I was like, I gotta, I gotta book it. I was riding my bike to work. It was probably about for me, it was like about the exercise, whatever. It was about 6 miles to and fro. Anyway, so I'm on my way to work, and I'm trying to beat a traffic light going down this hill. And there's a 16-wheeler on this four-way intersection, and I can't see around it. And the light turns red on ours, green on theirs, but the truck driver can see me. So he doesn't really move. And I'm just like, at that point, I've already committed, So I'm booking it. And as soon as I cross, there is another car that was not at the stoplight, had speed, was literally just barreling down. And I thought that was it. I thought that this was going to be it for me. I literally didn't think I was fast enough. And I kind of just gave Jesus the wheel kind of thing, and just closed my eyes and kind of was expecting impact, and literally just rolled through it, thank heavens, and just heard a huge horn and screeching of tires. And I opened my eyes, looked around, and I was like, yo, what just happened? I was expecting impact, in other words. That's how close it was, or at least it felt. And I was shaken, pulled over to the side, and thought came to me, and I was like, yo, we're all going to die someday. How do we want to die? Do we want to die on our time, or do we want to die because we're working for somebody else or on our time, kind of thing. And my friend had no idea what was going on, and he reached out to me. He lived out here already. We'd visited, and he was like, he had no idea. Just literally around this, I think it was the same day or like a few days later, or something like that. And he was like, "Hey, man, why don't you move out to Mexico?" And I was like, "To do what?" That was kind of like my thinking. And I remember going to work. I came back on my way back from work. I remember passing by that intersection. I was thinking, maybe this is some type of something. I don't know. Let me think about that. And long story short, because there's definitely more details to it. But long story short, I considered it. I looked online. I don't know. Hopper, the
Oh yeah,
app
yeah,
for like finding. Yeah. So I looked on Hopper and I was like, oh, let me find some tickets. And the tickets were like, they were saying 300 from LA to Cancun. I was like, 300. I was like, that's like practically a round trip from New York. I was like, whatever. And I was like, all right. And I remember saying out loud one night before going to bed, I was like, if this tickets drop to 150, because it said on Hopper, it said, but prices can drop to 150. And I was like, all right. I was like, I'm willing to go 150, but I was like, because my mind was not really planning on going to Mexico. But I was like, if this tickets drop to 150, I was like, I'll take that as a sign, and I'm gonna go to Mexico. I kid you not. The next day, I'm at work. I'm
Hmm.
helping some customer out. I get a notification. I just like kind of like briefly checked it out, and I was like, all right, whatever. Let me finish helping this person out. I remember going to the bathroom right after I helped the person, and I saw the notification, and it said prices to Mexico, Cancun are 150, and I was like, no way. No freaking way. I was like, all right, this is kind of weird. And then I was driving home, and that's when I passed by the area where I almost got hit by the car. And I was like, you know what? We're always looking for signs in life.
hmm
And, when they come, I don't really think that we really pay much attention to them. I feel like we're like, nah, I can't be. And then we kind of just like brush it aside. But something about it. And I was like, you know what? I think this is a move. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead. At the very least, I'll just go for 1 year. 6 years later.
For what? Yeah, but even to commit for 1 year, it seemed like a lot. Must have seemed like a lot at the time.
Yeah,
Like
it was. It was. And I'll tell you one thing is that the when I went to my job, and I talked to my managers and everything. They're like, "Oh no, you're a great worker. We like you. If you want to go and just take the year off and come back, you're more than welcome to," kind of thing. So I felt like I had the confidence of job security.
mm,
So, it gave me even that much more confidence to be able to make that move. Didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my family. Just packed up my stuff and left. And I was like, yeah,
yeah.
whatever. I'm just gonna go see what happens. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history.
And would you say up to that point, like where were you at with, your health and your fitness, your wellness? Has that always been just part of your ethos in general?
Yeah, I would say I've always been pretty healthy. I've always maintained a fairly decent level of health or fitness, if you will. I've always tried to be active. I
If
don't try to
decent
take
is
my
how you look now, then I feel bad for the rest of us because because you're decent is like the after picture of yeah, like I don't know, like something I can only imagine. So that's great to hear.
Well, I mean, I guess for me, it's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I really feel like, our bodies are this is our only vessel. It's the only, way that we carry ourselves around. So you may as well take full responsibility for it, right? Like, it's truly the main thing that you're responsible for on this planet is your body. Like, nobody
Hmm.
else is going to take care of it for you. Only you are. And if you don't feel like you have what it takes, then, or if you don't do what it takes, then nobody else is going to do it for you. And yeah, and I think I've always or not always, but once I adopted that mentality, it was one of those things where I was like, well, yeah, there's no looking back. And like, there is no looking, there's no back.
Yeah.
It's just going from there. Now, obviously, you still want to like try to make sure that one, either you're having fun. It's not just, you can't just be strict all the time. You have to have your moments. You have your cheat days and stuff and everything else. But you know, you don't really do too many. Yeah, it's with a grain of salt. You take every other thing, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so my intention with this podcast and how I want it to be perceived and who I want to listen to it is well, there's maybe different segments. Some are the brands, fitness brands, wellness brands, with tech apps, hospitality that is mostly focused around wellness, people that are running various different wellness communities. And so for this particular episode, I think it'd be really interesting to hear, like, from the wellness community standpoint, the fitness community standpoint. You get to Mexico about 6 years ago.
Mhm.
Like, give me the stage of chapters of, like, how did it come about? How did Nomad Abs come about? What was like that an initiation period where it's like, all right, I'm going to bring this to the world, and how has it developed since then?
Yeah, again, like I said, 6 years ago wasn't really a thing. In fact, when I first got to Mexico, I was doing more online fitness training. I was an
Hmm.
online personal trainer in essence. COVID happened shortly after that, so it was actually kind of like perfect timing. So I had a couple of clients, and I was training them. But again, it felt more like it honestly started feeling more like therapy than it was a personal training session. They were telling me their issues, and not to say everyone has their problems, and that's fine. But it felt like I was listening to more so what their problems were rather than getting them to actually do the workout and the training and everything. So I enjoy training. I enjoy working out. That's my own personal thing, and I kind of equated it to like, hey, well, maybe if I train people, I may as well just get paid to do what I love, right? Kind of thing, or what
Hmm.
I already enjoy doing. Fast forward to end of 2023, maybe actually even earlier than that. I think you know him, Leon.
Hmm.
Anyway, so you may know him, but yeah, I met
Yeah, I do.
Leon. Him and I started like, yeah, okay. So him and I started like hanging out. One of the first things, she was like, hey man, I really want to get into shape and everything else and blah 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 blah. And I was like, all right, that sounds cool. And he's a runner. I don't really care to run, but I was kind of interested in getting into the whole running thing. It was the whole run club kind of vibe thing was really starting to pick up, and I was like, all right, you know what? Listen, where's the harm in learning how to run, kind of thing. So yeah, I'll meet up with him. We'll do our runs in the mornings, and I'm gonna go and start training and doing the afternoon trainings, which was pretty much what I would be leading because that was my whatever strong suit, right? And and so from there, we ended up he ends up meeting another guy, Horace, and he told Horace like, hey, why don't you come around and work with us? This is probably around like the end of 2023, or like mid 2023, something around there. And we all started like start training, and it was clear that Horace was like, he was like, he really wanted to like start making a difference for himself and everything. So I was like, all right, cool, let's all go, let's just train, let's just see where this goes and everything. It was never an intention to build in anything. And then another friend came like, hey man, because Leon was posting all on his social media. I'm pretty much of a private person. I don't like whatever I'm doing, I'm just doing it just to do it, not because I'm like, oh hey, look at what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
So I was just doing it, and then other people were like, oh hey, can we join? Or somebody else was like, hey, can I join? And then Karen, this is another friend of ours, she joined, and then for some reason, once she joined, it's like things just started going from there. We went from a group of four of us to probably six, and then 10, and then the numbers just started like multiplying from there. And I was like, at one day we just showed up, and I was like, yo, where did everybody just come from? It was
Hmm.
just the wildest thing. It was just like a hangout opportunity to like, everyone was just working out, we're hanging out, we're doing these things, and we're all getting, staying active and healthy and fit together. And then yeah, it just from there just kept on. And then we started talking about the idea, myself, Leon, Karen, and Horace. We'll start talking about the idea of like, what could we name this thing? Because the initial name was actually Disco Pumpas because because it's supposed to be like a German twist. That's what they do in Germany. Is like, that's what Leon was talking about. He's like, oh no, we call it Disco Pumpas because you get the pump in before going out, and that's pretty much what we would do. Is like we'd all be pretty much we'd be training in the evenings before going out, like on Fridays or whatever the case is. So the idea was, Disco Pumpa. It was like
Hmm.
you get that swollenness before going out. You know what I mean? And that was supposed to be the original name. And I was kind of like, well, that is, I don't know if that's so marketable. So I was like, that's what I was, and I was like, hey, if we're trying to scale this, that may not necessarily be the most marketable thing. And so we started like throwing around names. And I think he may have either thrown it into like Chat GPT or something. I don't remember how exactly it happened. But then that's when I believe Nomad Abs came. And, yeah, well, they were like, all right, Nomad Abs, less home, more abs, and that was it,
Nice, man. So
more or less.
one of the patterns I see emerging in these types of communities, and it's happened for us, it happened with PDC Fitness Club, it happens with a couple other friends I have that are running communities like this, is that they're really only sustainable if the person doing it is doing it for self-service in their own interests, meaning like you actually want to just work out and then you just started inviting people. That's the same thing with our run club. It was like 4 people to start, and then now it's over 200 every week when we have our run on
Wow.
Sundays. And it's like, it's so interesting to see because I think there's a lot of folks who go about this type of community building and they immediately think about monetization. They think about like, how do I make money out of this? And they do it for a reason that there's like a means to the end rather than I'm doing this,
Mm,
so I'm going to invite other people to do it with me. So what's been that dynamic for you as, because you guys started it for yourselves, and then as you've gone along,
hmm
it seems like you're kind of in a position now to actually do some monetization. But what's that process been like, moving from, okay, we got 4 people, to now it's like, your workouts are probably what, like 50, 60 people a lot of the times.
50, 60 people on average, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Um,
what's that growth,
you know,
that growth process? Yeah.
when you say growth process, you mean in terms of finances and monetization type of thing, or what do you mean?
So even, yeah, like how your mindset has changed about it, and how long it's been, like 2 years, right? Basically.
Prior to, yeah, yeah, it's coming on 2 years. End of this year is going to be 2 years. Yep.
So I've noticed, at least for me, as time has gone along, like our audience has started to ask for things that they want, that they're willing to pay for. There's been more opportunities with brands. There's opportunities with merch. There's kind of this like mindset that has to shift from the founders to be like, okay, now we have a community that, yeah, we're still doing it from the heart, but there's these opportunities on the table that our community is asking for. How has that process been for
Mm.
you as you've grown?
In- Interesting. I mean, honestly, right about now, I haven't really been, or we haven't really been like questioning the community so much so as far as like, hey, what are you guys looking for per se? Because again, maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm being naive. I don't know, but I feel like it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, listen, if it's not broke, why fix it, kind of thing. And people are not really asking for. People are happy to be doing the workouts. Now, I know I can't necessarily keep doing the workouts, obviously, for until the end of time, kind of thing. So it'd be good to either figure out how to, have this transition. But yeah, as of right now, and that's kind of actually kind of what I reached out to you, because it's like I've thought of it and I'm not so sure exactly, but other concepts have come to mind that I feel would be beneficial for people who actually want to see progress, because the workouts aren't enough, you know? Just going to these workouts and just training and everything else. Yeah, you're gonna probably feel sore. You're gonna feel, yeah, at least you're gonna be burning some calories. You're gonna be staying in shape. Probably keep your cardiovascular up and all that stuff. But if you're trying to actually see results, if you're actually trying to change your physique, if you actually want to make that progress, these workouts are not the end all be all. They're not going to be enough. And so I'm working on something in another fashion altogether, but it's not. I'm not so sure that it will be catered to the actual people in the workout per se.
Hmm.
But there could be elements of what I'm working on that can be monetized when broken down, I guess, into elements of what it's going to be composed of, that will make it possibly, beneficial for anyone who wants to either, whether support or just, make a difference in their own personal journey of fitness. So yeah, I mean, I'd rather not necessarily just start talking about that full out right now, but because I'm still
Well, I
like
got some
kind of ironing out
perspective.
the details.
I got some perspective if you want it, because I think it's an
I would
interesting
love,
topic. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
So I love that you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it, because I think that that's um there's something within the core offer that like people come and they're engaged and they love it, right? And like that's what you built, was like a free community where they know what to expect. They're getting what they want. And there's this balance between, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and innovating the model and innovating the offerings around it and innovating like what is happening. And similar to you, we're in a space where it's like we're foreseeing, okay, this is a side project for all of us. We have 3 partners in our businesses as well, and all of us have regular businesses that we run during the day. This is something we're doing outside of that, and it becomes difficult to justify the amount of effort at times because the sustainability long term and even our own finances are going into it, but we have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to keep it sustainable. So I think one thing that's come up for us is like we use the Run Club as the jumping off point and kind of the top of the funnel, so to speak, or the community intro, where it's like every week we have a free run. It's always going to be free. You know what to expect. It's going to be awesome. And we'll have innovations, meaning we'll do like themed runs, or we'll bring sponsors to the actual runs in the morning that give out coffee at the beginning.
Mm,
We'll try out different vendors for the restaurant that we go to after. We'll get discounts from those vendors, certain things like that. And then we're like, all right, what can we
mm,
bring in that doesn't disrupt the core offer but adds value? And it's like merch, which you guys
mm,
have obviously done as well, and having people be able to wear something that makes them feel even more part of the community. And then beyond that, it's been like, all right, what other events, like what other wellness events can we do? And that's where the Sweat and Chill was born. We now have this 11 a.m. coffee party concept. The next week, I don't know when this podcast will come out. This will already have happened by then. But next week we're doing a paddle party. So we're gonna have 200 to 300
oh,
people on paddle courts for a sunset dance party while there's a paddle tournament
wow.
happening. So there's kind of
That's
like
awesome.
different ways that we're looking to mix and match, like with the community, other ways. Because what we found was like people wanted more social
Mm,
time. It's like obviously the Run Club. We go
mm.
and we run, then we have a brunch after. And a lot of people like that. But like, oh, I want to see people outside of this. And
How
it's
did
just
you find
listening.
out that that's
Yeah.
what people want? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, listening to the
Okay.
audience and just understanding, like like talking to them a lot about what they want to see. And then also I'd say even beyond that, sometimes people don't even know what they want. So it's having enough foresight and understanding of innovation in the wellness industry and where it's going to predict what people will want. So we're in Latin American
Mm,
markets, which I think is actually a huge advantage in this way. So when we brought the Sweat and Chill here, that was a concept that already existed in the US for some time. Like in general, we have our
mm,
own twist on it. We have our own version of it. The paddle party has been going on in Europe and the US. And so if you almost like look at the US as a year or two ahead of what's happening in some of these Latin American markets, you can kind of predict what's going to start happening here. And you could be the first one to do it in Playa del Carmen, for instance.
mm,
So that's something that
mm.
we got ahead of. And because our audience had all the trust and we'd been doing similar to you, it's like you do workouts for 2 years for free. People want to pay you at some point, like they feel
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
indebted. I mean, even me, remember I walked up to you, I was like, dude, i just
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to i just want to give you some money because
Yeah.
you saved me a gym membership that month. Like I would have had to get a gym
Right.
membership.
Right. Right.
So for me it's
Right.
like I understand what it takes to put that together, where a lot of people, they'll do the workouts, but they don't think as much about like how much effort it actually takes to do it.
Right.
So those are some of the ways that we're thinking about it. And then I think long term, really, the way that I've thought about this is that we're actually not a wellness community, we're a content company. Because every way that we've grown organically and every way that we can offer value to potential sponsors is through content and our
Mm,
communities. So it's not even so much that we're like anyone that comes to our Instagram page, the reason that they end up going is because they see the Instagram and they see what it's like to be there and they see themselves in the storytelling through the content, and that's
mm.
why they show up. And it's so shareable, right? People are sharing on, it's a viral loop. It's
Yeah.
like we have professional pictures taken every Sunday when we do our runs. People get excited to join the email list because they want to get the pictures every week.
Mm,
They want to see themselves in the pictures.
mm,
So you create some of the viral loops there, and then also that becomes the value to the sponsors when they start coming. It's like you actually sell a content package to the sponsors. You don't sell them exposure, because it would cost a company, a brand, especially in the US, like for a content package, especially if it was UGC content and like specialized promotional content, it would cost them a bunch of money to have something like that done. So we just say, hey, bring your stuff to our event. We'll shoot the content for you. We'll edit it. We'll package it, and you get exposure to our audience. but like the
Hmm.
main offer is actually the content. It's not even just the event.
That's interesting. Okay. So you guys end up just pretty much just offering that as your as part of the so you're are you charging the companies
Yeah.
that are coming and okay.
Yeah, but the way that
All
we're framing
right.
it is like these companies are not only, so a company will bring samples to an event and they'll have an offer for the audience, but what they're paying for is the content that they get. So it's the framing of the
Okay.
value. The framing of the value is like you're gonna get content of real people using your product at a really cool event
Uh,
that already has a massive following anyway. And we're going to include your link in
uh,
our newsletter, and we're going to include your link in our social media, and you're going to get a shout out on the Luma page. You know, you just kind of can stack. I think once we really took seriously that we're actually a content company and we're not a wellness community, the
mhm.
reframing has been really helpful to see what the value is, because the content is really at the heart of everything. It's like it's the reason people show up. It's the reason even subconsciously sometimes they show up because they want to be in the pictures, but they don't know that
Right.
that's a mechanism happening in the background of their mind. But like
It's kind of wild. Yeah.
it's it's truly like there's a hit of dopamine when you go into the photo album and you're like, did was I in any pictures this week?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So
Yeah, we've all been there.
so we play to that a bit, but then
Amazing.
we also over deliver, similar to you. It's like people come to that run. It's like we have a structured 3K, 5K run with pacers, with welcome volunteers, with sponsors that sometimes hand out samples, with a brunch afterwards. There's facilitation throughout it. There's community throughout it, and you end up seeing the same people each week that you really enjoy seeing. So if the experience isn't
Yeah.
there, it doesn't really matter, right? But we can
Right.
also leverage, human psychology and kind of the way content works nowadays to work in our favor in every single facet.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely get, because it's actually been interesting over the like, past couple of months and even more recently, there've been people who've approached me and been like, hey, like, I would like to like offer this to your group of people and everything else. And I'm like, hey, listen, that sounds great and everything else. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not entirely sure how exactly I can make this beneficial for myself and the community, where it's not just like, hey,
Yeah.
and even the people who are coming, so there's not just like, hey, here's this product, buy it, and that's it. Because, and you kind of just like put some stuff into perspective, which I think is pretty nice, is that showing people actually, like, whether it's like eating your product or just engaging in your environment or whatever the case may be, can generate that level of buzz and awareness, so that people are actually like, oh wait, so something
hmm
else, there is something here, what is that, curiosity.
And I think
But yeah, that may be something I need to pick your brain on a little bit further on.
yeah, man. I got another layer to that too, which is I think when choosing the brands to work with, and I think here's where the shift is happening in buying behavior, and what I think companies in this space need to think about is like people buy now and are starting to buy more and more through community belonging and like the feeling of being somewhere. So not only if I'm in a community and I'm being activated at a live event, there's more likelihood that I'll engage with a brand. But if I feel like there's a really nice alignment with this brand and the community I'm a part of, there's a sense of loyalty that just transfers. But the issue is a lot of these brands, the way that they think about it is very transactional and short term. So they may come to you and be like, hey, we just want to sell to your community. And it's like, well, that's not really how it works. It's like the way that we've looked at it is we really want people that are already within our communities that have companies and brands that want, like, understand our vision, understand what we do, have been to our experiences and come to us and say, hey, we want to sponsor this because we've been and we love it. Like that's so much more
Hmm.
effective. And I think a lot of
Yes.
these really big wellness companies, fitness companies, whatever industry you want to put them in that want exposure to this type of audience. I think what they're going to start doing is they're going to start either buying these types of communities themselves. They're going to start hiring people to create and run companies like this that are in the image of their
Mm.
brand. or they're going to collaborate and
Mm.
partner with ecosystems that already exist, like a NomadAbs PDC Fitness Club. And I think Latin America will be a little bit behind on that. But we're already seeing some of that in the U.S., where like some run clubs are being purchased, like acquired by like big companies, because they see that if we just
Wow.
purchase this run club and we fit everybody in our apparel, like boom, just like that, there's hundreds, if not thousands of ambassadors that we've just purchased,
Mm.
whereas cost of acquisition for a customer would have been more anyway. So it's an interesting place to be in that we're in right now.
Yeah, no, it's literally you're tapping into a network of people that you didn't necessarily have to start to build from the ground up. It's already there. The work has been done for you, and they're more dedicated to actually, supporting that because, like you said, they feel indebted, right, to the fact that you're offering so much. Assuming that that's how the assuming that the big brands are acquiring one that has
Yeah.
already been established, sort of thing. Building it from the ground up, of course, is going to take some time, but it seems like, yeah, and that's, some people have come to me and asked me like, hey, what can I do? I'm like, hey, look, uh, if you're offering something that's somewhat like either free or whatever that, people can come and actually test it, because that's the only way you're going to get their trust is them coming to you and seeing that, like, there's a lot of restaurants already, for example, right? Like, so for a restaurant to come and be like, hey, listen, can you bring your people over? And then maybe they could just like buy stuff. And it's like, well, what do you have to offer them? At least let them try something, whether it's a smoothie, whether it's like a dessert or like a quick platter that you're just going to offer them and give them. And then from there, maybe they can be like, oh, well, actually, this does have some good stuff. Thank you for giving me these things. And now I feel like, oh, well, you guys gave me something. I would like to give you something in return. And I at least that's what I've tried to advise on in some cases, and a lot of cases they've been like, yeah, let's do it, and let's figure
Mm.
out how we're going to do that, and it's happened. But yeah, if a company just comes or a restaurant or whoever just comes and is just like, hey, just I just want you to sell my stuff, I think automatically even people start feeling like they're getting hustled, right?
It's just
to
yeah, it's
to
just a
some extent.
transaction. It's just a transaction at that point.
Exactly, you know.
So
But yeah,
so
no.
for you, I want to go a little bit more into your journey with what have been the challenges, because you talked about speaking with these types of restaurants and stuff as an example of like, you got to provide value first. You got to, give an experience that builds trust. And you've been doing that for years now. Like, what have you seen as has been what have you been your biggest challenges in this journey of the past 2 years of building this?
Um, I think one of the biggest challenges has been at times showing up. I mean, just because it's like, I didn't, it's something that kind of like fell on my lap and I didn't necessarily expect, so it's kind of like showing up consistently. And I can be pretty much of a private person. Like I enjoy my anonymity. I enjoy being on my own or whatever the case is and just doing my own thing. So showing up on days when I was
Playa's the
like,
worst place for that, dude.
but here's the thing, and it becomes even worse when you start running like a community where it's like,
Yeah.
everyone kind of like starts knowing each other, right? And and I was like, that was one of the hardest things. However, it's always been so funny because on certain days when I'm like, oh man, I'm not really feeling it. For some reason or another, I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's like, someone has tapped into my energy or what it is, but somehow people always seem to come to me on certain days and just be like, thank you so much. Like, it's not even about receiving, donations at that point. It's just, you can see it in their eyes. You can feel it in their voice. They're so grateful for just being able to have this kind of community, to have this opportunity to just get out and, be active and, continue on their fitness journey. And I don't know how else to put it, but there's nothing more rewarding or gratifying than that. And like it's one of those moments where it's like you've done more for me than I have for you by you just telling me that, because I
Mm.
was in that point where I'm just like, I feel like I'm like, "Ugh, what am I even doing this for?" Kind of thing. And I don't know why, again, but it just seems like on those kind of days, those are the days when people really come and just like and express themselves to me. Or maybe it's just me paying more attention to it, but it feels more genuine than not when I really hear people coming up to me after the workouts and like, yo, dude, man, thank you so much. That was so great. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, yeah, I love your energy, and all that. And I'm just there like, hey, thank you. I'm just being me, right? And yeah, it's beautiful, and I think to me that's that is one of the reasons why I feel so protective over not just, just throwing the community to the wolves just to make money, because in essence lives are being changed here,
Hmm.
for people who didn't know where to turn to or how to make that first step, and I think more than anything, now this is why I'm starting to think about this is like, I know that if if I know that fitness is not the only mannerism that is necessary for anyone to get to that dream body, if that's what that people are going for, then maybe it's also my duty to now start including or talking or kind of like putting out the feelers there for what the other factors may be that they can also start trying to incorporate into their daily lives, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a piece there that's also just not mutually exclusive. It's the fact that you can monetize in a way that feels good and also protects the community and keeps it sustainable. And I think that's the version that we've taken on as a mindset of like, we could monetize not at the sake of the community, but also to brands that are super aligned
Mm.
with what we're doing. Because I would almost 10 times out of 10 rather take money from a big brand that wants exposure to
Yes.
our community rather than a community member uh, for whatever thing. Although there are things like obviously like merch or these events that we do that we keep relatively affordable, just because
You're
we're
right.
living in a Latin America market. We want our split of people that come here to be heavily favored towards locals and accessible to locals as well
100%.
as foreigners. So I think there's a place there where you can find that balance, and then just having that intuition that you're that same thing, that same feeling of like the overprotectiveness is the same thing that will help you make the right decisions because you have the best intentions and you have your heart in it, and it's the right sign to have that that's there. And then the next step is like, okay, well, if I feel 100% true about my intentions, then who are the partners that could help me figure this out? And maybe it's a
Mm.
certain brand in the area that you really like already. It's someone who already is within your community that has a place where they're offering up, like you said, much more value to the community than taking from them. And then, yeah, for us, that's been a game of learning too. But is I think as long as you have the best intentions, like once you've built years of trust like that, and you explain why you're doing the things that you're doing, people get it. They understand.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's a very good point. And you're in Medellin, right?
Yeah,
And how long have you been doing because I know you've been doing it for some time now. I mean, not to switch the interview over to you, but I mean, I'm also
it's all
curious
good.
because, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I have not
these
heard your
combos
side
are
of the story.
these combos are super welcome to go both ways in that. So for me, I got to Medellin. I've been between Playa del Carmen and Medellin for 6 years. I spent most of the
Mm.
past 6 years in Playa del Carmen, but then I moved full
Mm.
time to Medellin about a year and a half ago. So beginning of 2024. And when I
Okay.
got here, a couple months in, I joined this run club, and I really loved it. And like I was starting to go every week. And at some point, I was noticing that the founder of it was still doing everything himself. And I started volunteering. I was like, hey, man, let me hand out the bracelets. Let me bring the music. Let me do this and let me do this. I just started taking things off his plate logistically, operationally, that he would have to think about that he no longer had to think about. And then it became, okay,
Mm.
let me take over the task management platform. Let's add some structure to this. Let's operationalize. Let's bring in a volunteer team. Let's start to sell merch. Let's start to do all these other things. And he was able, over the course of 6, 8 months of me just showing up every weekend, us having conversations every week about the vision of it, it started to turn into like, all right, let's develop an operating agreement around this and have you come in as a managing partner and an owner of the
Mm,
business. And then we ended up having a third person come in she's a local, and she's really been super helpful in being able to open doors for us that were a bit harder for us to open just based on the fact that we're foreigners.
no, nice.
So
Right.
all of it came about really organically through me kind of volunteering in those initial days that I was going. And then from there, we built out this event series, both the Sweat and Chill events, which is like a morning, sauna dance party with exercise and ice baths and all sorts of stuff. And we just had our last one last week, and it was 80 people, and the tickets sold out in 4 minutes.
Nice.
So,
No
like,
way.
yeah, so like the amount of demand that we've built, again, it's mostly through the content. Because if you go look at our content and look at our Instagrams, like everything we've built has been through on the Medellin Run Club side. It's more kind of trendy meme kind of like the videos you were just posting with that girl, right?
You're right with
You have a couple of
Madison.
recent
Yes.
videos where you've posted
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that with
We're
the girl
building
from your
that out
community.
now. Yeah. Yeah, we're starting to actually start to create content as well. So, which is kind of funny that when you started talking about how you're like, yo, we start looking at things from the content perspective is funny because that is literally just the kind of conversation that myself and Madison had recently been having. And she actually stepped up because again, it was one of those things where I was like, I can only do so much, right? Because I was doing 3 days. I was doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6:30, and it started feeling like it was taking a little bit of a task on my body, and just it was a lot of energy, right? So I reached out to the community. I was like, hey, who would like to either step up or something of that nature? And she was one of those who actually did, and I was like very grateful. So anyway, more recently we were just talking, and she was like, hey, why don't we just start creating some content? I was like, I would love to. I was like, I actually enjoy the whole creative aspect, and I just don't feel like I don't want to do it alone either.
Yeah,
So it was awesome to have her come to me and actually say that, because I was like, yes, yes, let's do this. So, yeah, whenever she has the time, I'm like, yo, let's brainstorm, let's come up with some ideas, let's start creating content, and just share with people our personality and just pretty much what the energy of Nomad Abs is and can be, so that they can get that sense. And from there on out, we'll see where things go. But more than anything, let's just have fun with it.
yeah,
And that's where we are right now. So yeah,
yeah.
and then hopefully down the line,
I think that's the
other
playbook,
things will come
man.
about.
And if you like, I think that's really what works right now in these social fitness groups too, is if you look at our Instagram, the Medellin Run Club, like the main focus of that content is like lighthearted, trendy, kind of iPhone camera, but like silly, kind of less tender, more running, kind of stuff like that, where there's these little clips that give you a glimpse into like what the community is actually like to be there. And the undertone is that it's not that serious. Like, we're here to be social, we're here to be
Yes.
fun, while also getting the workout, being around aligned people, things like that. And then if you look at our Sweat and Chill content, it's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more like professional, a little bit more like it's got an edge to it, where it's like luxury, kind of high end wellness. And I think that brand identity is so important. That's why we've been so lucky to have a founder who's so content focused, because he really developed that brand identity super early with the content, and that's why it
Mm,
grew. And we're at almost 18,000 organic in a year with the Run Club, and on
wow.
Instagram, it's very hard to do on Instagram. And
Yeah, especially
I
this day
think,
and age.
yeah, this, like, with the way that Instagram works now, it's much harder. But if you can kind of tap into what that brand identity is, which it sounds like it's a very similar voice, you can even just look at what's trending and kind of recreate certain styles of videos in your own way. And I thought the last one you did was pretty good, because it had the music over the top, and it was like, I heard the head coach is jacked. It's you saying it, and then she's like, "Oh, aren't you the head coach?" And you're like, "Oh, thank you, me." So I like that kind of like tongue in cheek content with short reels, and also showing the experience. has been like our greatest growth lever. And it's also what brands want to be involved in because they know that that kind of
Uh,
stuff is where their potential customers lie. So
yeah. Well, thank you for reaffirming that we are on the right path, because to me that's the fun part, and I enjoy the workouts and everything. But I think more than anything, it's like after a while, I think even having the people just show up can feel, I think it can feel a little dry, So now
yeah,
that these have shown up, the community, you can feel there's like another layer now to the community. People are like coming at us. They're like, "Oh, hey, that was such a great video," and this, that, and the third. And now we have a bunch of other ideas. We're actually going to be filming a couple of, hopefully, this coming week, and whatnot. So like trying to bring a couple of like old trends back and all this other stuff.
yeah.
So it's yeah, it's gonna, to me, this is the kind of stuff that's exciting, because it's like you have an opportunity here to really build and grow something. So sky can be the limit, and beyond even. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So actually, thank you really for sharing that.
Yeah, man. I think it reaffirms too for you that if it's not broke, don't fix it, meaning the main experience that you create, which is the workout actually being super valuable to people, is still the core, right? And it's not
Uh-huh.
losing value from that to add a content layer where the brand identity is starting to develop and you're starting to get people excited about coming because they connect with whatever they saw online and maybe they've never been before, but they see that and they're like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, I wonder like what it's actually like to be there. And they start getting that FOMO and then they're like, oh, it's free to go. There's literally no barrier to entry. It's just like, oh, I see them all the time that track. I might as well join. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm still curious for you. So you mentioned kind of stepping back a bit operationally, meaning like you had to find people in the community like, hey, who can take some of these workouts, who can help with the content. You're starting to get people to be more involved. Where do you see your future in building this, and like where do you want it to go?
Very good question. Ideally, the future I see would be for it to be something like, and this is what I've started trying to develop, and it still has a whiles or a way to go. And it was to kind of like develop like workout videos using on YouTube, because again, the whole concept is nomad, right? So a lot of and the reason why it even came about to be called Nomad is, or Nomad Abs, is because a lot of the people that were coming to the workouts didn't really live here, or they came here at a certain point during the year and then they'll leave and then they'll come back, leave and come back. So, and some of them would be asking like, hey, still interacting with the group when they're miles away. And they were like, like, hey, like, I want to do this workout still. Like, is there a way I can continue to sustain that? And, aside of creating them a workout plan, the only other thing I could think of was, well, why not record some of these videos and put them on YouTube? You can watch them, you can follow along. You already know us, the community. However, there's still first of all, there's 1,000,005 different workout videos on YouTube. So, that's already one thing people are going to have to filter through. And that's not to say that it should be discouraging, but at the end of the day, it's like, how would that really work, in terms of people continuing to, or excuse me, or for people to really just choose the us over any of those other brands. And I think the only thing that would have made that so is if they have been to the workouts, right? So how manageable is that over time? Who knows?
Can I give
However,
you a suggestion?
ideally,
I got an idea.
please, 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 yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so at the beginning of this, it's using what you've already got. So what you already have is an active, engaged community. What you already have is 40 to 60 people in front of you every week. So my thought would be, as you're doing the workout, every few exercises, you're actually, you choose a day that you're going to do this, but it's like, we're going to have this one be a content day, and I'm going to have someone who's volunteering to walk around with me with the camera. I'm going to go in and go up to someone who's doing the exercise while they're doing it, get their consent first and whatever, and like explain the exercise, what it's working out, how to do it right, and the fact that they can do it anywhere in the world on a ground like this. Boom, here's why it's this, here's why it's
Mm,
this. It's like, and that could even be part of the shorts that you make, is like some of them could be more like mixed in more, not serious, but it's just like this is more educational. But then you have like the reels that are kind of
Right.
funny. But it you want to
Yes.
do it without adding in any additional admin or burden on scheduling. It's like you've got already all these people doing the workout. So it's like you pick the workouts based on what you would want to show people how to do. And then while people are doing it, just during one of the exercises, you go over with the camera. You're like, come on, let's look at how Karen's doing this. So right here, Karen's got this, she's got her abs doing this is going to take care of this or this. You just do this for, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 5 sets, and you're on. Or you do a snippet of one of those exercises throughout the entire workout, and then you stitch them all together and be like, this was the Nomad Abs workout for
Uh,
today. Then you've got the
uh,
video with the instruction all stitched together with different people from the community, so they start sharing it, because that's really what makes
uh,
the things different is the distribution. Like if you have distribution, that's the main thing, right? So let's say that I strategically choose a couple of the people that are doing the workout, and I know that they're influencers, or I know they're people that are content creators and they have a following, and then I'm gonna specifically choose them to highlight in this short workout segment to show how they're doing the workout, why they're doing it correctly, what it's working out, and then I'm gonna stitch that together. And I'll post it in the stories, tag them, and then it goes to the
uh.
YouTube or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could work on the distribution, but I think for now, it's like the lightest weight that you can just get something out there is the main thing to focus on. And then that gets
Mm,
you some reps, like figuring out what the brand identity is and like what actually works.
I like that. And I think that's pretty manageable also,
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, cheers.
Can't
Yeah.
wait to see it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too. That's actually one of those things where now I'm gonna have to go and look at the followers and just,
Yeah.
kind of like start nitpicking at who are the people that tend to show up that have a decent following and go from there, right? And not obviously try to not try to what you call abuse that obviously too often, but and not make them feel like they're just being whatever. But that's a very good point, actually. It's a
Yeah.
very good
And you
point.
could be as
I will
curated as
definitely be
you
looking at
want.
that.
Like you could do the first few where you're just people that are your regulars, you know that they're going to do the exercise right, you know they're going to look good on the camera, you know they're going to be
Yeah,
open to
yeah,
doing it. You ask them beforehand. And that's
yeah.
really one big strategy for us is that, in some of our events, we have especially the paid events, is we have a certain budget allocated for content regardless. And so what we do is we put some of that towards free admissions to content creators and then basically do an exchange with them to do content for us of the experience. And they're sharing it with their audience.
Mm,
And then we get the content too. So there's a lot of different ways
that's nice.
to go about this once it's also monetized, but I think that's a lot of good places to start. We're at the end of the hour here, brother. I want to just get one
Yeah,
more. I want to get one more thing from you if you can, and that is
sure, sure, sure.
the last question, which maybe will be the last question for this podcast series, like every episode. But what's Oheri's legacy in the wellness space? Like, what's the movement that you want to be known for creating?
The movement. Oh man. I mean, at this point, I honestly, I feel like the movement has already been created on as far as my legacy goes with Nomad Abs, and being someone who has offered these classes to really inspire others to continue their fitness journey, and I say that because, or I use the Nomad Abs as a prime example, and because I've created, I had another brand in the past, but this in particular stands out the most because of the amount of people that it has really touched.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, there's one guy in particular, Horace, who I feel like is the best example of this. Is that to me, I feel like he's the poster boy because he's the one who, whenever he goes anywhere, wherever he goes, he continues his workouts. He stays on it, and there was even in the chats at one point, I started teasing him and I started telling everyone, hey, listen, tap into your inner Horus, because we all have that in us. We all have that drive in us. We just need to stop making excuses for ourselves and start going at it and making it happen. So if there's some type of legacy, I just want everyone to just really tap into themselves and really not, and stop looking at the excuses that they have, all the obstacles, and just be like, hey, look, let me make it happen. It's possible. And just go from there, you know?
Awesome, man. Love it. And yeah, what I love most about what you've been building is this idea that no matter where you're at, you can continue your wellness and fitness journey. And then there doesn't need to be an
100%.
excuse. It can be easy, it can be accessible. And I think it's so important that people remove all those excuses and barriers to health and fitness and longevity and just staying in good shape,
Exactly.
no matter what's happened. So appreciate having you on, man. Thank you so much. Excited to come back to
Thank you for
Playa.
having me.
Yeah, excited to be back in
Yeah.
Playa at some point in the next maybe 6-8 months to see what you guys have
All right.
got going on. So thanks so
Built.
much.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you for having me, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother.